Two things have stuck in my mind from yesterday's game. Were two comments. The first one, I wasn't aware of this comment, but somebody pointed it out to me, was Jamie Carragher yesterday when talking about West Ham. He said, West Ham fans aren't angry, they're bored. Now, I know people might say, well, hold on a second, what's he doing talking on behalf of West Ham fans? I do feel that throughout almost everything, Carragher's had his ear to the ground with a lot of stuff with West Ham. I don't know whether he's just perceptive and he sort of understands. Maybe he's got a close friend that's a West Ham fan who's whispering this sort of stuff in his ear. But there's no doubt about it. It is pretty boring stuff at West Ham at the moment. And something that Gio said, we've just finished recording our player ratings video over on Patreon channel. If you want to go and give Patreon a little whirl, you can go and check it out. Links in the description below. Take advantage of the 7-day free trial if you want. But during that, Gio said, and I hope I've quoted him correctly here, unfortunately, every West Ham game is an advertisement for why you shouldn't renew your season ticket next year. Now, renewals are well down on... It's hard to say on where they should be because the barometer is slightly different because we did an early access to the season ticket, so it's not entirely reflective. We've been selling them for longer this year than we had done at the comparable time last year. But they are down, and they are well down. There's no doubt about that at all. That increasingly more people are choosing not to renew. And it goes back to... I think there's a lot of things. I think there's a lot of factors at play here, and I don't particularly want to discuss all of them. And I'm not going to spend the whole summer moaning about Graham Potter because I just don't believe that there's any real benefit in doing so. But this is after the game, and we've only got one more game after this. And I am trying to align myself in the hope and in the faith that things might be better next season. And I do think, as I've said on a few occasions, and I know people hate it when I say this, but I can't generate any more enthusiasm than the way I feel, which is I think we'll probably be okay if we can get the player recruitment right. In terms of the way we're playing, though, it's quite boring. It's very, very boring indeed, in fact. And I can't help but try and deal with the mitigation and deal with the excuses that people give for Graham Potter playing in this way. Now, the one that says when he gets his own players, things will be different. Okay, I understand that. But that is often aligned with, well, what choice he's got? He must play this way because of the players he's got at his disposal. Well, the substitutes that he made against Nottingham Forest yesterday would indicate that's not the case. Carlos Soler can play the ball a lot better. We instantly opened up when Lucas Paquetá was playing forward passes. Guilherme looked exciting on the ball. We played with a striker. These are all things that could have been done at the start of the game, but he chose not to. Now, but in the one hand, I do think Graham Potter, by and large, makes a load of negative substitutions. Yesterday wasn't the case. He made positive substitutions. So I guess in many respects you can't have it all. But that doesn't mean I am not worried for next season because I do find it incredibly boring football. And I touched on it yesterday when I mentioned about Alan Pardew. And the only reason I mentioned him continually is because it probably was my favourite style of football. But I do remember him when he arrived at West Ham. They said, what do you want to change? And he said, I just think we don't attack quickly enough. He said, so I want to keep passing the ball on the deck. He said, I want to get the ball wide. He said, but I'd sort of rather attack in sort of, I think the number he gave was 6 passes. I thought, okay, well, this is pretty good. And I liked it. It was fast paced. Everything about West Ham is slow at the moment. The way we conceded the goal was a result of slow passing and an insistence that we must pass the ball round slowly at the back. It is tedious. And the trouble is with Potter is Potter can talk a good game. He doesn't. Actually, the truth of the matter is Potter talks a boring game. If you listen to the way he speaks, it is very much management talk. We just dealt with all this, fun enough, on Patreon just before I've recorded this video. It's not so much spin, but it's almost like corporate speak, management talk. He talks about looking under the bonnet. He talks about zooming out. There's that old thing about thinking outside of the box. And he speaks in cliches and he speaks in riddles. but he speaks very, very calmly. And I think that's almost like a badge of honour for him. He's not going to get too excited. And I do understand that, but I'm not sure how much that helps with regard to creating an energetic team, because I find him lacking real energy when he speaks. And I guess, look, you can have negative energy, you can have positive energy. You could be really, really angry. That would be, you're still energetic though. Maybe a ranter and a raver in a dressing room. Or maybe you could just be enthusiastic. I don't know why Claudio Ranieri popped into my mind then. But excitable, but it's still energy. I don't get any energy coming off Potter at all. And I don't know what his team talks are like, but I watched an interview with him yesterday. It was on Sky Sports, and it was a 7-minute interview of him walking around the West Ham training ground. It's very calm. He's very lucid. He's very insightful. Somebody on Patreon called him a pseudo-intellectual. He's not a silly guy, but he seems to lack any sort of spark. And I wouldn't be surprised if his team talks are like that. If, again, it's the same thing about zooming out and ticking the boxes. And West Ham play passionless, in a passionless way a lot of the time. Up until the point where we had a bit of fight about us. And that was at the end, and it almost was a fight. But the players that I think that looked like they have some personality, like Lucas Paquetá, like Edson Alvarez, and certainly like Nicholas Füllkrug, they're not going to be here next season. And it's almost like we're being cleansed of personality in that sense. And maybe, just maybe, Potter is going to bring in outspoken leaders into that dressing room. He's certainly going to need to. Because we're just quiet. We're not even quietly effective. We're just quiet. And I am very, very concerned. West Ham have a hell of a player in Jarrod Bowen. A hell of a player. A generational player, actually. We might have to wait a while before we get another player who is as effective as him. I should know the stat, because it was told to me this morning. Jarrod Bowen has been involved in 44% of West Ham's goals. Brilliant. Well done, Bowen. Really bad news from our point of view. It means 44% of our goals he has either assisted or scored. We're too reliant on him. But there was one thing you would think you would do. If there was someone that good, you'd play him in their best position. We're not even doing that. And I'm really concerned about next season. I really am. It's not just me saying it, by the way. It's not just Jamie Carragher saying it. There was a segment on Match of the Day. There was a segment on TalkSport. There's a segment on Sky Sports. Almost everyone is saying the same thing. That Potter has got a really, really difficult start to next season. Not because we know the fixtures. We don't know the fixtures yet. They could be anything. Who knows? But I think most people know he's not going to have an awful lot of leeway. And this is why it was so important, the way we ended this season. And for him to give us a certain level of sort of interest in next season and to inject a bit of vibrancy. But we're not vibrant. As I say, we would really lack any energy. The team is slow, and it is. And I think a lot of it can be placed, well, what else could we do with that midfield? Okay, maybe. But I'm not seeing a load of vibrant, energetic messaging either. And I think Potter could really do himself a favour by actually talking plainly now. I don't think he will, because it would seem that the one player who has talked plainly, Nicholas Füllkrug, has been put on a naughty step for doing so. But I could do with hearing, at least from Potter, that he has highlighted what we are doing wrong, what's going wrong. I'd like him to tell us, actually, what he's going to do in midfield. We all think we know. What Danny Murphy said yesterday, was it Match of the Day 2, I think. He said, West Ham are crying out for energy in midfield. Crying out for it. Well, we better do that, but I'm not convinced it's going to happen yet, for the reasons that I've given before, because I've not seen us sign a single player. Actually, tell a lie. The Celtic lad Cummings was at the game, but you know what I mean. I've not seen us sign a player under Potter apart from Evan Ferguson, and we signed him and he didn't want to use him. So you will excuse me for being reserved on that. But I would be more certain that we're going to sign the correct players in January if I heard Potter highlight and pinpoint what was wrong in the team. I don't think. I know. I keep saying this. I know I said it about Man U and I said it about Tottenham. I don't think that was Nottingham Forest at their best that we saw. I thought they. I don't know about there for the taking. I don't think they're as bad as Man U or anyone like that. But I do think there was an opportunity there. And Potter speaks about building trust with the fans. But he doesn't seem to have any sort of concept that he's going to need to try and play entertaining football at home from the start. He plays boring defensive football a lot of the time, most of the time. You can do that, but you can't do that and lose. It's got to be effective. That is the only reason for playing. It's not he's going out to be boring. He thinks he's playing winning football. That's the idea. You're going to either, what are you going to do? You're going to open up, you're going to entertain, you leave yourself open. What's the problem? Well, you're not going to win games. People go defensive because they think it's going to win us games. It doesn't. We've won 5 home games. There's some people that have watched every game at London Stadium, got season tickets this season, have seen 5 wins. That's nowhere near good enough. And he says the words. Build trust. Get the fans on side. But you don't ever get the impression that he's in that dressing room putting a rocket up everyone's arse. You don't ever get the impression he's disappointed with the way that James Ward-Prowse playing sideways passes, backwards passes. You get the impression this is fine. And it's not like he's even looking for any kind of trade-off where he's thinking, well, do you know what? Maybe if we start with a little bit more intensity, which to an extent I think we possibly did against Forest. I think the crossover from Soufal to Souček, and then we won a corner as well, which Todibo should have done better from. There's no doubt about that. But actually to play with a real fast pace. The tendency to pass the ball around at the back, we've seen it when we should be clearing our lines. He doesn't want to do it. That's why we mentioned it yesterday in yesterday's video. That's why Kilman got caught out. He had 2 chances to clear his lines. Won't do it. He's under instruction not to. That's why Areola got caught out doing it. So I don't think the way we're playing is risk-free. It can be quite risky. We're inviting teams on to press us. The idea is we play through the press. I get it. And I'm not going to spend the summer moaning about Potter. I'm really not. I'm going to hope that things get better. But I am worried. And I am also worried about the incentives that he has given us. And I think he understands a lot. He is a clever guy, but there are some really basic things he doesn't understand. He speaks about building a relationship with fans without really understanding how it's done, I think. I think it's hard to be excited for next season at the moment for obvious reasons. And look, why should West Ham? We haven't got any divine right to be excited about next season, of course. But it'd be nice to be given a little something. But he can produce. Wasn't even my label, the boring football. I do think it is boring, I'm not disagreeing, but it's not my label, the boring football. So many people, so many comments on yesterday's video, just that they're bored. So many people not renewing, saying they're bored. I mean, a lot of people. And it's not just... We often think sometimes it's a protest thing to say. I'm not renewing. And I think some people say it and they do renew. I think there's a difference this time, a real difference. There were 2 ways we were going to be able to build excitement ahead of next season. One of them was to finish the season strongly, playing good football. That's gone. The other way now is to sign some exciting players. But there's no doubt about it. It's not just me saying it. It is everybody else. It's the mainstream media and us saying West Ham could be in trouble. And I don't think it's done... If I think the media are digging out West Ham unfairly, I'll say so. I thought it was the case at the end of last season because we got rid of Moyes. I thought there were a lot of people in the media who just wanted West Ham to fail. They wanted West Ham to fail. They wanted Moyes to succeed so they could say, we told you so, be careful what you wish for. All of that. I completely understand the way the media can work. I don't believe that's happening now. I don't believe that's what Carragher's doing. I don't believe that's what Danny Murphy was doing. In fact, they're different people. They're not the same. It's not Richard Keys. It's not Paul Merson. It's not Chris Sutton just laying the boot in. I think it is people who are probably a little bit more reasonable in the way they assess things, saying, well, this is not great. What we need to know is that Graham Potter has seen what's failing at West Ham and he will fix it for next season. But I've got to say, the way he's picking his teams and the way he's speaking is not filling me with confidence that even he knows what's wrong.